Good evening, everyone. Welcome to MyStudia. My name is Prashant, one of the faculties here at MyStudia. So today we are going to be looking at task 2 of writing module. So let me just give you a brief intro of the entire writing module first. You will have 60 minutes to write your entire writing module, and it will have two tasks. Task 1 would be a report wherein the minimum word limit would be between 150 words, and the second task would be an essay where the minimum word limit would be at least 250 words. So now there is no upper limit to both the tasks, but it is ideally acceptable that you should write for task 1 somewhere between 160 to 190 words, and for task 2 it would be better if you can write somewhere between 260 to 290 words. So in any which way case, you should just focus on not exceeding more than what a person could read. So somewhere not ranging more than 300 would be beneficial. So looking at task 2 today, which will be our main topic, we will be understanding what are certain things that you need to keep in mind while writing task 2. Firstly, we will discuss the 4 parameters which are taken into account by the examiner before assessing you for task 2 and before marking you over it. So the first parameter is task response. So task response stands to your response towards the question. Now basically an entire question of task 2, that is the essay, has two components. One being the thesis statement, along which the entire ideology and the question will revolve, and the next would be follow-up questions which you will need to answer in your entire question. So task response is basically the response which is examined by the examiner that you would be giving in adherence to the question. Second one would be coherence and cohesion. Coherence and cohesion is nothing else but storyline in layman's language. Likewise, supposingly if you get to watch a movie, we have an entire plot in front of us wherein we get to introduce the characters first, and we can see a sequence of elements running in a perfect sense so that it can make a sense in our mind to understand everything. So your entire storyline of your answer makes up to coherence and cohesion. Your next portion or the next parameter that is taken into account is lexical resources. It stands for somewhat unusual or uncommon vocabulary that many people tend to use. So you will have to brush them up every now and then as far as your vocabulary is concerned. And the last but not the least parameter is grammatical range and accuracy. Now this is somewhere where the students tend to goof up a lot, and the reason behind is they are unable to understand what range stands for. People usually tend to speak or write similar range of sentences, like they are more focused towards either compound or complex or simple sentences. So the entire grammatical range and accuracy stands for your range of sentences and how each and every content of yours can be written into different form by you in the examination. So these are the 4 parameters that are taken into account. Make sure you learn them by heart and understand them really good in order to score better. Let's come to the weightage portion. So your task 1 of academic would be of 1/3 mark, and your task 2 of your academic writing module would be 2/3 of marks. Let me give you an example. Let's just assume that you scored 7 bands in your first task and you scored 6.5 in your essay. So according to the mathematical algorithm, your task 1 is of 1/3 mark, so 7 would be taken into account, and your task 2 would be 2/3 of your marks. So if you have scored 6.5, it would be 6.5 plus 6.5 plus 7, that comes up to 20. And once you divide 20 by 3, it becomes to 6.666 non-terminating decimal. Since your non-terminating decimal, that is 6.66, stands between 6.5 to 6.75, it will be rounded backwards and it will end up at 6.5. So your entire writing module stands at 6.5. I hope you guys are clear with this. Let's move on to the next portion by understanding what exactly the structure of your entire essay should look like. Now let's take certain questions as example and understand what the entire structure of essay would look like after deciding the content. So we'll take few questions as example, and we'll start with certain close-ended questions and move on to open-ended. So we'll have our first question now. So some people think that only electric cars should be allowed on the road by 2040, and this is the topic statement. Do you agree? This would be the follow-up question. Now ideally, I expect all the new students to please break your entire topic statement into 2 or maximum 3 portions so that it becomes easier for you to paraphrase the entire content of your topic statement. For example, like I have done over here, that some people think that is the first portion. Only electric cars should be allowed is the second portion, and the last portion is that on the road by 2040. Once you segregate your entire topic statement into portions, it becomes easier for you to paraphrase them. So, with each and every paraphrase, I would say that some people are of the opinion that mere usage of electric cars by the year 2040 should be made compulsory or completely legal. Now, this is an example. Now, after paraphrasing, you need to focus on the follow-up questions, that since the follow-up question has you in it, it becomes a closed-ended question wherein you are supposed to write your own point of view and your personal point of view. You cannot write generalized questions or generalized answers in closed-ended questions because it will obviously degrade your marks. What you need to focus on as far as body paragraph 1 and 2 are concerned, you have to write the reasons regarding your agreement or disagreement. So, personally speaking, I would disagree with the topic statement, and the two reasons behind it would be the first one being the lack of charging network in our country, and the second one would be the less range of electric vehicles as compared to other engines. Now, it is ideally advisable for all the students to mention one or maximum two reasons in each paragraph and explain them thoroughly. As far as the last paragraph, that is the conclusion, is concerned, you are supposed to summarize all your points or all the content that you have written in paragraph 2 and 3 respectively. Please keep in mind that you are not supposed to write any new point that has not been mentioned in paragraph 2 or 3, because it can lead to deductions of marks, plus it will compromise somewhat to your coherence and cohesion. After discussing this entire format, I want you to just revisit the entire paragraphs in your mind and understand how we have adhered to all the 4 parameters. So your task response always focuses on your answer towards the follow-up question. Your lexical resources is something that you will have to work on as far as your vocabulary is concerned. Your coherence and cohesion automatically falls into place once you write introduction, 2 body paragraphs to support your content and your judgment, and 1 conclusion. As far as grammatical range and accuracy is concerned, it will automatically fall into place once you start practicing it. Moving on to the another set of questions. Some people think there should be free healthcare for other peoples and others disagree. Now, you're supposed to discuss both the sides, and since it doesn't have the word you in the follow-up question, it will be an open-ended question. Now, we'll break this into 2 parts because it is not a very lengthy topic statement. So the first part being that some people think there should be free healthcare, and the next part would be but other people disagree. Now, as far as this entire rephrasal is concerned, you can divide this entire topic statement into 2 portions, and you can say something like, many people are of the opinion, or many people believe that all the countries should have free healthcare, or all the countries should provide free healthcare for all its citizens, but the other portion disagrees, or the other set of people disagree. Since this entire question is about discussing both sides, your body paragraph 1 and body paragraph 2 should be about the reasons for why there should be free healthcare, and the other paragraph having why you should not have free healthcare. As far as the reasons are concerned, the very foremost reason why there should be free healthcare is because it strengthens the health infrastructure of any particular country. One reason for the disagreement would be the increase in tax burden on the normal people or the normal working civilians, because the government has to provide healthcare to all the citizens of the country. So these are 2 portions and 2 basic reasons that an individual can think of as far as the topic statement is concerned. Once you are done explaining both these reasons in both the paragraphs, I would want you to write the conclusion and summarize them briefly. And always remember, we cannot afford to write any new statement. One particular thing in conclusion that I want you to understand, that please do not refer to certain material that is given on the internet. However, as far as certain phrases or linkers are concerned, it is ideally advisable to begin your 4th, that is conclusive paragraph, with to conclude or in conclusion. Once you go on the internet, there are certain words like in my opinion, to comprise. I would recommend all of you to please not use these words, as there are certain parameters that can get your bands deducted as well. And one of the most important parameters is memorized words. So once you go on the internet and memorize certain words, the examiners will automatically get to know that they do not fall in place and align with your own vocabulary. So I would urge everyone to start the conclusion with to conclude or in conclusion. Moving on to the next type of question, we have some people think it is good for students to take a gap year before going to university. What are the advantages and disadvantages of doing so? This entire question also falls into the open-ended category, as it doesn't have the word you. Now there are two things that you need to keep in mind as far as this question is concerned. You are asked what are the advantages and disadvantages of doing so. If in any case, if you write one advantage more than the disadvantages or vice versa, it might create a bad impression. It is ideally advisable for you to either write two advantages and two disadvantages, or one advantage and one disadvantage in body paragraph 1 and 2 respectively. Remember, you are not supposed to write anything in bullet points, as this is a subjective paper and not an objective based module. You are supposed to write everything in respect to context and not bullet points. Ideally, one or two advantages and one or two disadvantages in each paragraph should suffice. You might not want to break the word limit despite not having the upper limit. So, moving on to the topic statement, that some people think it is good for students to take a gap year before going to university. Now, let's break it into two portions. So, some people think it is good for students, being the first portion, and to take a gap year before going to university, being the second portion. So, many people believe, or many people are of the opinion, that it is advisable for the college students or school going students to take a break before applying for their further education. This is how you can paraphrase your entire topic statement. Now, certain advantages and disadvantages. I would say the advantages of having a gap year would be that a person while working can have an in-hand and hands-on experience of the real life market before going to university in order to study, or they can actually just relax for a year and be in a separate mood, and then they also get the time to decide what they would really like to pursue as far as their further studies are concerned. One basic disadvantage that I have in my mind as far as the topic statement is concerned would be that it can actually ruin people's mood to study further. A student once takes a gap year might encounter a mood or might encounter a phase in life where they might not want to study further. So this is one disadvantage that I have in my mind. Since I do not have much disadvantages in my mind, I will obviously not write more than one advantage. So one advantage in body paragraph 1 and one disadvantage in body paragraph 2. And then you are supposed to summarize both the points. Always remember, students, you are supposed to summarize the content of body paragraph 1 and body paragraph 2. It is advisable for you to summarize them as brief as possible, because if you write the entire content of body paragraph 2 and 3, you might mismanage the content in all the paragraphs, and that would be the last thing that you would all like to do. Moving on to another question, we have more and more people are moving to cities to look for work. What problem does this cause, and what are the possible solutions? Now, this is one particular type wherein you have two follow-up questions. It is advisable for everyone to write and answer one question in each paragraph. The reason being that coherence and cohesion automatically would fall into place once you start segregating all the follow-up questions individually. Moving on with the basics, we'll paraphrase the entire topic statement, that is, more and more people are moving to cities to look for work. Since this is not a very big statement, I would divide this into two paragraphs, or probably 2 points. And the first one would be that more and more people are moving, and the other portion would be to cities to look for work. Now, the first portion, that is more and more people are moving, that could be rephrased as majority of the people or plenty of people are moving to urban areas in order to look for work or in order to pursue their economic purposes. This is also one way of putting their entire topic statement in a paraphrasal or rephrasal mode. Coming back to the problems that people moving to urban areas that they can cause are the increased population in the urban areas, also the increase in competition followed by overpopulation. So these are 2 to 3 problems that a student can think of, and I would recommend you to write 1 or maximum 2 problems in body paragraph 1. The reason being, in order to address these problems, you are supposed to write the solutions accordingly in body paragraph 2. So let's just take overpopulation and increasing competition as an example. So in body paragraph 2, in order to tackle overpopulation, you can write that the government can introduce certain schemes wherein they can accommodate more and more people, and as far as increasing competition is concerned, what the government can do is that they can develop or generate more job opportunities to accommodate the people who are coming from rural areas. Once you are done maintaining and mentioning all these paragraphs and writing the solutions in body paragraph 2, you can summarize them in conclusion. And remember, since this question is an open-ended question, your answer has to be very generalized and it doesn't need your own personal opinion. So these are certain examples that are taken into account in order to explain you the task 2 of essay. I hope you guys are very clear with this. Thank you and have a nice day.